I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. All right, y'all. It is Friday, October 1, 62 degrees in Kitsap County. Beautiful day. October 1st, October 1st, October 1st. Man, 3/4 down, 1/4 left to go. What are you going to do with the final 3 months of the year? What are you going to do with the final 3 months of the year? So much to do, so much to get prepared for. Fall is approaching. Winter's coming. Although metaphorically we say winter is already here. Of course, there are holidays and everything else.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So tonight, in our continued emergency preparedness and equity series, I wanted to talk about digital literacy. I think that's a very important topic that really kind of came to light once the lockdown happened and folks needed to get their kids their Chromebooks and begin to do school remotely. There's a lot of hardship centered around that. And I've shared some stats with you previously on literacy rates for our Black children, particularly our Black boys, and how horrific it is. And so when you couple those issues and then you add a computer on top of it, it just compounds the situation, right? And so, this is something we definitely need to address, deal with, come up with some solutions. And from an equity standpoint, this is a huge deal. So I want to get into it tonight. And hopefully you'll maybe come on and tell some of your stories on digital literacy, either that you've experienced yourself as you have, if you were blessed, that your job started to remote and you were able to take part in that and needed to learn how to, maneuver yourself around a computer, how to troubleshoot a computer, all those things. Or if it was your children, and or if you find yourself looking for work now, which you've had a job for quite a while and now you're in this online environment and you're like, what happened? Everything is different. Kind of funny because it's how it is when you're married, right? You're married for like a decade or so, and then you go back on the dating scene and it's like, what the hell happened? This isn't nothing like what it was before. So it's like just crazy. It's like, man, I want to go back inside where it's safe. This is wild, right? But I'm gonna tell you a series of stories and why this has always been really important to me, and why that's been a part of G2 and other things that I've taken part in. Uh, and then we'll talk about some solutions and things that we can do to overcome that. And to tell you a quick story, one of the reasons why this came up, and we've talked about this before in some other circles, but in our weekly meeting that we have with Martita, shout out to Martita, Okoye, Christina, and Deborah. But we have our weekly meetings, and in that meeting, Okoye was doing double duty, right? She's like, oh, my class is starting at Evergreen State College, and she's working on her degree. And I'm like, oh, you're in school? She was like, you didn't know I was in school? I'm like, no, I had no idea. And she was talking about the challenges that she has with computer literacy, right? And dealing with, logging into the Zoom and getting assignments submitted and communicating with professors, and how stressful that is. And so I offered to her, to do a tutoring session and help her to navigate the tools that they use, so that is not a barrier to learning the actual topic and subject that she's paid money to learn, right? And this is a huge, huge issue. And you've seen Okoye here on the podcast, and many of you have seen her on in other Zooms, right? Participating in meetings and things like that. And oftentimes we take things for granted, right? We're in the digital age, and so we have these smartphones, which I kind of joke and say is like my brain, right? I only use 15% of my brain now. You only use 15% of my smartphone. I probably use even less than that, right? It's like there's so many apps and things that this thing can do. I'll never use, most of the things that this phone can do. And I think when uh, NASA was, doing their launches to the moon and whatnot, back then the computers were like, as big as a room, right? And our cell phones now have that same processing power, which is crazy that we have all that power in our hands. Or if you think about Star Trek and the tricorders, and the things that they could do seem so novel. uh and our phones can do all these things, right? When I wear uh my iWatch, whatever they call that thing, it can take my heartbeat and tell me to stand and tell me to breathe, and track my dietary intake, and I can put all these things in there. It just does all this crazy stuff, which is remarkable. And so technology can be a wonderful thing, but it can be difficult too. And with our kids, the misnomer is, well, kids can play these video games and they TikTok and they Instagram and they do all the, online dating, whatever the case may be. And they're so resilient in that. But then when it comes to learning, then it's a very different thing. And I think parents miss that disconnect, and I think teachers and administrators might miss that disconnect. I think they might see it a little bit more, but we really kind of take that for granted, and we miss an opportunity to ensure that our kids have that skill set that they need. One of the things that we did with Layla, she had a Nabi, which is like a kid version of a tablet. So it had these big red covering that went on it, so it could bounce and drop everywhere. And we got her adapted to using a touchscreen and um, using this tablet. And so, as she grew up with this technology, it's just kind of second nature to her. I was just so impressed when she was, oh, maybe 5. uh, she was able to, do things in Microsoft Word, and copy and paste and use some of the shortcuts, and because it's more intuitive to her, right? These are the tools that she grew up using, and so it made it easier. And so it's all well and good that you can play video games or play games on the cell phone, that's downloaded from the Google Play Store, but that was really important. Mama got her playing a typing game, and so she can keyboard, and she's actually pretty good. We were having a contest. She showed me the app, and so it's how fast can you and how accurate can you do the character um, sequences. And she actually was beating me in some of them. Now she's more practiced in it, and it's like FD or whatever, but she's really good at it. And her playing piano, I know, has also been a big help, understanding where the keys are, and being able to read sheet music and where to put your hands and all that good stuff is all a huge benefit for her, which is going to make her experience a lot easier, right? As we get away from writing and needing to type papers, we can do a few equations just for fun. So if you think of a one-page paper, it's about 750 words, I believe, right? And think as to how many words per minute you type. Do you type 30 words a minute, 40 words a minute, 50 words a minute? Can you put both hands on the keyboard and type? Can you put both hands on the keyboard and type without looking? Do you peck? So, if I can type 50 words a minute, I still need to think about what I'm typing. I'm not typically copying documentation, right? So I'm typing 50 words a minute, 750 words. Well, that goes into 75 how many times? Oh man, I should do the math so I don't say something wrong. If Rob was here, he would tell me just right off the bat without even putting it in the calculator. So it would take you what, about 15 minutes to do that? 50 words a minute? 750 words? Is that? I think my math might be off on that. Rob, if you're listening, you correct me on that because I think I'm wrong. But let's say you peck and you can only peck 10 or 15 words per minute. It's going to take you 4 or 5 times the length. 30 minutes? 4 or 5 times the length of time that someone who can type, not look at the keys, even if they don't type quickly, right? I mean, we're talking about 30 words a minute isn't quick, right? But 50 is, I'm around 46, 47 words a minute. If I really get to flowing, I can probably get up to about 50, 55. Layla's mom, I think she can type like 90 words a minute. And it's so funny watching her type, and the keyboard is like you're making the keyboard is smoking, right? It's just like it's crazy. And you look over and it's like, wow, she's literally typing twice as fast as I'm typing, and I'm quick. And the person who is typing at 15 words per minute and she's at 90, I mean, she's literally, do you understand the time, right? So when you're in an academic setting, you need to read the assignment, right? You need to read the chapter. You may need to check for understanding, and then it's time for you to complete your assignment. And you are thinking as you write, and you're writing drafts. You may need to do a first draft, a second draft, a third draft. I know a lot of students take shortcuts, and that first draft is the final draft, or maybe there's a draft and maybe some fixes, and that's what gets submitted. But that's it. How long does it take for you to get through that? And what is the opportunity cost of you learning how to keyboard that is going to allow you to have that free time back that you can spend somewhere else, especially if you need to reread a chapter because it's a boring subject or it's one that you have difficulty grasping? These are powerful things that we need to think about for our children as they come up, right? And I'm gonna tell you that, these skills are never too late. The skills that they learn now, even if they're in junior high or high school, they are likely to use in their adult years. So if they don't have those skills, consider giving them that skill set. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the chat. We'll just kind of type it as we go. Keyboarding is a big one. Oh, I should probably title this so folks that come in late know what I'm talking about here. How can we improve digital literacy? How's that? Digital. And we'll go with number one here. And that's a question. So I need a question mark. I'm a stickler on punctuation. It seems like it's now the thing to uh, just type in lowercase, not use punctuation. That drives me it drives me crazy. So Rob says, you were right, 750 words at 50 words per minute is 15 minutes of typing. So if you have a 4-page paper, that's going to take you an hour, assuming that you don't stop and correct any errors, assuming you know exactly what you're going to say, and you don't have to think about what you're going to say, or you have to go back and reference or do whatever you need to do, right? 4-page paper, 60 minutes, 1 hour, perfect. Likely going to take you anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's at 50 words a minute. If you're typing at 15 words a minute, that's going to triple your time. So it's going to take you 45 minutes per page. So let's say you have 15 minutes to, look back and think about or fix your errors. That's an hour per page if you are at, 15 words a minute. 4 hours. You have 24 in a day. That's 1/6 of your day on one assignment for one paper. And we wonder why our kids or us as adults learning are frustrated and experience anxiety. and are stressed out and don't have the enjoyment. When we have these barriers to learning, it makes learning not fun. Right now, Layla she'll be 10 on Tuesday. Happy early birthday to Layla. But she loves school. She couldn't wait for class to start, right? But learning all of a sudden isn't as fun when there's all these things that start to get in the way from the learning experience. And once you experience that long enough, like with all things, then you just don't want to do it anymore. Even if it's interesting, it's like, yeah, it's interesting, but I'm good. I'd rather do something else. And so it's really important that we figure out ways to encourage and stimulate the learning of our youth and for ourselves to gain the knowledge that we need and have that success as we continue to build and go through the things that we need to go through. So I think this is a big deal, and we really have to acknowledge it and have a conversation and find some solutions to go through it. And I tell you, if I had taken a keyboard class when I was in junior high, life would have been a lot easier than trying to learn it as an adult. Because as we know, it's a lot harder to learn things as an adult, right? And there's just that extra that you got to put onto it, right? So now I got to take a keyboarding class on top of this, on top of that. When am I supposed to do any of these things? So if you can, get your kids on it early. There are a lot of typing games that are a lot of fun that kids find fun. And there's a lot of little bells and whistles. There's a lot of free games. And so I have conversations with parents who uh, struggle with, their kids wanting to play games. Like all they want to do is play the game. They get frustrated. They might even cry if they can't play the game, and it's stressful, right? And as a busy parent, whether you're a single parent or not, there are some times it's like, look, right now, yep, go ahead and do that so I can get dinner going. Or I got, I'm dealing with this emergency or this crisis and I'm trying to do 5 or 6 things at once. Okay, it's okay. Or they're in the back of the car and, you know, you're letting them do what they're doing. But if you try to shift that, it can be really beneficial for them, right? One, they're stimulated. You're able to focus and concentrate on what you're doing, but they're actually learning some skills that is going to benefit them uh, as they go forward. Hugely, hugely. And, being a teacher, I watch it, I see it. I have an in class assignment. You have a 50-minute course that meets 5 days a week. It's 50 minutes. I tell you to do a 15-minute, you have 15 minutes to work on this particular assignment, and you're pecking, you're stressed out, and the other person has the assignment done and it's done in class. Or you didn't get your full uh thought out. So you've missed out on that, right? That's stressful. And it impacts your learning. So the person that was able to keyboard that entire time got out of the assignment what needed to be gleaned from it, right? Well, at least hopefully. That wasn't a barrier for their learning and they're ready for the next step. While you were only able to maybe get out a sentence or two and you didn't have a complete thought. So that's terribly frustrating and it really impacts the learning. When we look at literacy rates in the United States, especially amongst our young Black boys, do we think of there's testing that's done, right? Testing the fourth, testing the eighth, kind of big testing years. Okay, so this is where they're at. How are we going to reverse the ship? What is going to be different? Do they have an IEP? And does that IEP include removing some of those barriers. Do people even consider those as barriers, or is it kind of that standard fare? It's a behavioral issue. It's not. It's probably they can't type, or they're bored. They're not stimulated, right? We see that with a lot of super intelligent kids that are sitting in a class and they're not being stimulated. They're not being challenged. I was very thankful that my dad uh, put me into courses that were called Horizon Ed. I've talked about that before. They're like AP courses for elementary school kids. Because when you're sitting in a class and it's like, oh hey, we're waiting for the class to we got to teach at this speed so we don't leave anyone behind, which sometimes it still leaves people behind, but you're shooting at the middle. And the folks that are accelerating, they just have to sit and wait. And if you don't have a great teacher that has something else for those kids to continue to stimulate their learning, right, then they get bored and they can become a behavior problem in the classroom. So that's something else that you have to consider too. So for you parents out there, if you have some kids that are smart as a whip and they are, but they're not performing well in school, look at that. And it's okay for you to create work for them, uh, and or ask the teacher to create some extra work for them. Because it's going to be to the benefit of them. And I got to tell you, and of course, we all love our kids, right? Our kids are my kid's the best. Your kid's the best. It just is what it is. Let me find the text here. So I'm talking to Layla the other day, and like Layla, sweetie, your birthday's coming up. What do you want for your birthday this year? Excuse me, I know I'm on camera, but I need to use my Flonase. Allergies. So what do you want for your birthday? Well, she's 10, so of course she still wants what 10-year-olds want, right? I want Roblox bucks from the Google Play Store, right? Okay, sweetie. What else? You know, on a cell phone. All right. What else? Well, we use this program in school for math called Prodigy, and I would like the Premier Pay version, premium version of it. And it's like, what? What'd you say? Yeah, I would like the premium version of this math resource that we use in school. Of course, dad loves that. Like, seriously, sweetie? Yeah, that's what I want. All right. Well, that's definitely going to happen, right? But that happens in part that for us, you know, when Layla was young, it's really important for me, right? The stereotype is, and there's some stats to kind of show it, right? And there's definitely reasons that impact this, but that, girls don't do as well in math and science. And a lot of that has to do with stereotyping and, well, guys are good at this. And, uh, where people kind of naturally go to things of that nature. And so I didn't want Layla to be afraid of math. And so for me, it was always important to make a game of it. And so to do different things uh, and make it tangible for her. So, when we go to play video games at an arcade, all right, sweetie, well, you have how many quarters are in a dollar? Well, okay, there's four. So we're going to use $5 today. So how many quarters is that? And then we can get into some fractions, right? Well, what is the fraction if we're going to use, one quarter out of, the dollar that we have, and can teach fractions or use that pizza and slowly, do that and reinforce, her knowledge, right? And so, the big game for us is we're driving around. It's like, Daddy, give me some math problems. And she can't use paper. She just needs to compute them in her head. And so we do that. And what's great about that is one of the things that, a lot of folks will say is, I hate story problems. Just give me the, 7 times 6. Okay, I can do that. But if you say, Well, Farmer John, had 7 cows, and these 7 cows can produce 8 gallons of milk per day. How many gallons of milk are produced per day? All of a sudden, when you start putting words around the numbers, folks are gone. They're done. And so teaching her and giving her questions orally, oral story problems, you know, building on the 7 times 8 and then putting the words around that where she's actively listening for those words and dissecting helps to make her not afraid of it. And it's fun, right? And then that builds her self-esteem and her confidence, and she wants more. And we can go more and more and more. Kids can get a little bored in church. So, when we go to church, we're sitting there. It's like, all right, sweetie, I know you're a little restless there. So I'll give her some math problems. So I think I taught her powers in church. So it was like, all right, what's 2 to the third power? Like, we're not learning that in school. I'm in 4th grade. you know. Matter of fact, she might have been in the 3rd grade. Well, we'll call it the 4th, you know, and then teach her the concept of that. And, just stimulate and challenge that learning. Stephanie says, please don't story up math. It hurts. But you know what? And that's exactly it, right? Because that you probably didn't have that the experience that Layla's had. And not saying that, you're just gonna like it if that's how it was anyway. But that was really important for me that she wasn't afraid of that. Because oftentimes, we teachers have their own biases. And so if they're thinking a thing and you have enough folks doing it, they'll lean into those things, right? And so I just didn't want that for her. Oh, reading is a challenge, so I'm working on that and trying to incentivize her reading. But math right now, she's doing well. And I hope it doesn't fall off because when kids are young, usually in elementary school, they love school. They want to get to school, they love learning, and then something happens. I don't know, like junior high or high school. Sometimes the switch is just flicks and it's just not fun anymore. They don't have the same motivation, the zeal, and the zest. And of course, they're older, and there's dating and activities and just everything that's going on. Right? They're teenagers, hormones, whatever. But we can build in as much as we can. I definitely don't want her to be struggling with literacy either through words, reading, and or through computers. That's really important. And so that's big, and everybody in the family embraces that, right? Grandma is big on that, uncle is big on that, grandpa's big on that, mama's big on that, dad's big on that. So she's got that reinforcement all the way through, and so that makes it a lot easier. And so, not to say that she's not going to have challenges in subjects as they get more rigorous. I'm gonna try to build that foundation as strong as possible now so she has the tools to go forward and remove those barriers. So I don't know, what have you found that was effective, Stephanie, to help with Monkey and his learning? And I'm a big proponent that video games can help with learning. And you can definitely make a great living off of it. And there was a time when I wanted to be a video game programmer. Me and my best friend, Rod, we wanted to be video game programmers. That's what we were going to do. And I tried to follow through for a little bit. I actually worked for Nintendo in Redmond for a while as a game counselor. So I think they paid me like, I don't know, it was so long ago. I was maybe 16, 17. I think they paid like 15, $16 an hour to play video games. And when folks called in, you help them get over a level, right? So I've been a counselor for a long time. Transferable skills, right? I mean, that's important. So literally, you would sit at your desk and you would have a computer and you would have your game console, and your job was to play video games and get good at a wide variety of games. And as people called in, you would help them get through the level, and they paid you for that. I mean, it was crazy. And so they had Nintendo University. This thing was like Amazon before Amazon. If you ever heard about Amazon campuses and how awesome they are and this and that, it was awesome. It was great. Really good experience. But I didn't want to when I learned what it was going to take to code. One, I wasn't a keyboarder, right? Didn't have that skill set back then, and started hearing some horror stories about folks sleeping under their desk to get games out, and doing that for months at a time. It's like, yeah, I'm good. That's too much, right? I mean, I like video games, but uh I like it because it's fun. Now that I got to do it for a job, and the job is like that much, I don't really like bookkeeping or accounting. I don't want to spend hours and hours trying to figure out where the mistake is and why, everything doesn't add up. Right. That's not fun to me. The numbers are fun, but going through and trying to figure that out, that I'm good. So Stephanie says, when he was little, we owned everything. Fetch. Older, I would set limits or take away the electronics. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Rationing out the time that they have access to games and the phone and whatnot, definitely important. And she says, but I always made sure I was there to help. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then it makes it a lot easier, right? As it changes, then it's good. For those of you that remember, uh, like right now, if you're attending college, they're using Canvas. And before Canvas was what was it before Canvas? Like Angel, and then it was something else, right? So these platforms that they use, they change a little bit, but there's a lot of similarities. And so if you know how to use one, you might have to do something just a little bit different, but it's not much to, figure that one out. So it's kind of like using Google Docs versus using Microsoft Word, right? I mean, they're similar. They both have ribbons, and you click on a tab and that changes the ribbon and you do different things. And so if you understand it, how that works, then when you get a new program that looks similar, right? Then it's like, okay, I'm good there. And if you think critically about it, then it can take a lot of the stress and anxiety away. And so, one of the things that I did was I taught computer literacy at WorkSource, right, at the employment office. And so I would teach Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint, basics. And folks were so stressed, right? They'd come in, and it's like, okay, I feel pretty comfortable with Microsoft Word, but then all of a sudden, they click on Excel and everything goes from blue to green, and now there's these cells, and all the learning is it's just foreign now, and they're terrified. And these are grown adults, right? And they're at WorkSource because they're looking for a new job. They may be changing a career. It's high stakes. What am I looking at? What is this? And you have to have a conversation and say, okay, well, let's take a look and see what we're looking at. What are we looking at here? Let's just pull back. I don't even care about the program right now, right? Let's see what we got. Let me pull this up and show you. So here we have Microsoft Word, yes? And as we're looking at it, many of us have used Microsoft Word, and we see it's blue up here. And then we have this area here. This is actually called the ribbon. Who knows why it's called the ribbon, but that's what it's called. And again, with all things, you need a common language. In the event yesterday from the Kids App Resiliency Project, the workshop, one of the things we were asked to do was define a word, right? And talk about that particular word. How have these things changed, or how have people changed a particular word or its meaning? And the thing is if we don't have a common language, it's a lot more difficult to uh, understand where each other is coming from, right? Stephanie says Excel sucks. You can't remember how to navigate and input all those codes, right? Yeah, it does some Excel does some magical things, you know. But when you're looking here, right? This is your ribbon here, right? And we use Microsoft Word. A lot of us do, so we're used to it. And if you look here, the home tab, and it looks like a manila folder, right? Little tab there, shows you what's in this ribbon. Well, if you click the next tab, the insert tab, the ribbon changes, right? And a huge secret is if you go slower and not faster, it's really interesting. And it's unfortunate, but people panic, right? So they see something and they click on it. And it's like, well, why did you click the button? I don't know. I don't know why I clicked it. Like, don't click the button. Just relax, you know? And if you hover, look, ma, no hands, it actually tells you what it is, right? So that is add a table. But folks get so terrified, they go over and they click it. Repetition, you'll start to learn things. But I don't need to memorize all of these things. I can just hover over it and take my hands off. So relaxing to take your hands off the mouse, off the keyboard. Just relax. Life is life is so easy. Just ride the wave. But we're working with the insert tab. Now I can click on the draw tab and the ribbon is going to change again, right? I can change to the design tab and the ribbon changes again. And I can hover over any of the icons and it will tell me what it is. Click on the layout. Okay, this is for my margins. This is my orientation, right? That's whether the paper is straight up and down or sideways, landscape. All right, this is how I can insert columns. And what I tell people is if you're ever stuck, there's no place like home. Just go back to the home tab. Don't be afraid. Now, that's Microsoft Word, right? You can type in the body here. Not too bad. We typically feel okay about that. Many folks. All right. So now, what happens if we say, yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's look at Excel. And we look at big, bad, scary Excel. Oh my God. Why? Why did they do this? It's green. What does Stephanie say? It's taken me 3 years to learn how to make a table. Why is it green? This is terrifying. Look at all of these cells. I've got numbers on the left side. I've got letters across the top, right? By the way, these are rows and columns. And the way that I remembered the letters were columns because I think of the, the Roman Empire, right? Those big columns. So that's how I remember that they're the ones that are straight up and down. But what do we have? I see some similarities. I see a ribbon. Huh. There's different icons there, but it's still a ribbon. And what else do I see? I see tabs up here. So I see a home tab, I see an insert tab, and when I click on a new tab, it changes the ribbon. I even see similar things in there. Microsoft Word had a table. Microsoft Word had a picture. Microsoft Word had shapes. Huh. It is a lot more similar than I thought it was. Hmm. There's a draw tab, right? That looked just like Microsoft Word. So there are these similarities, and that could be really helpful, right? Now, I've got glasses now, so it's really hard for me to see this. So down here, I can actually zoom in, right? And again, I can hover over and it tells me what it is. Look, ma, no hands. It tells me it's the zoom button. No, I should probably do something up here because that my picture's over there. That's background. Look, no hands. Tells me it's the background. Slower is faster. But I can zoom in here so I can see my columns and my rows a lot easier. True story. Now, what's awesome is if I click in any cell over here, it actually tells me what cell I'm in. So I'm in C1, like Battleship, if you ever played that game, right? I click down here and I'm like, okay, I'm in column F, row 9. See how it's kind of shaded there? But I can also look in the name box and it tells me I'm in F9. So I always know where I'm at. Okay. Hmm. Can I type in these cells? Oh, it's just like Microsoft Word. Hmm. And when I'm typing here, oh, look up here. I didn't even know that I can actually type up here, right? So I'm in D4 and I can type my name right there. Didn't know I could do that. Well, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I can go over here to, oh, let's do C6. I can type my name here. Oh, and Cameron is a, oh, what am I? I am a man who loves sweets. Now, they've made some improvements to Microsoft Word. Sometimes you can't always see what's in a particular cell, all of it, right? So let me get rid of that. Right now, I see that there's words that are written across C6, D6, and E6. But that isn't true. And I can prove that because if I click in the cell where the words start, I can look up here and actually see, hey, uh, I can see that all my whole sentence is actually in the cell of C6. So it's not actually going across all of these cells, right? Now, one of the things I can do is if I put my cursor in between the column C and D, my cursor actually changes. And it's always good to uh, just take your cursor, don't click on anything, and just look and see what your cursor does as you hover over different parts of the program you're using. So here I've got a black arrow. Down here, I've got an arrow that points down. In between the columns, I get a cross with arrows to the left and the right, pointing at each side of the column. If I go down here to the numbers, I get an arrow pointed to the right. If I go in between the rows, I get a cross with arrows that are up and down, right, in between the rows. If I go into a cell without clicking it, I get a white cross, right? So just looking and seeing what happens to your mouse as you hover over different parts of the program you're using. Let me just read this text really quick. All right, I did it to respond to that text. So that can be really helpful, right? So if we know that everything is typed into the cell of C6. So if I go into cell D6 and I start typing, now I have information in C6, but I also have information in D6. And I can know what that information is because I can look up here and see what's there. So, just in 5 minutes, Excel hopefully seems a lot easier. So, let's get out of Excel and let's open another program. Let's do that. Oh, and right now I've gone over to the dark side, so I am now a Mac user, and uh, it frustrates me to no end. There are some similarities and there are some differences, and I'm not a fan. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan. I know it is supposed to work better and have uh, fewer issues and be a lot more stable and secure in regards to security. It's not constantly doing updates, but oh, it just frustrates me. It really does. But let's take a look at PowerPoint. Oh, whoops. PowerPoint, they want to change it again. So now I open up PowerPoint and PowerPoint's orange. Word's blue, Excel's green, PowerPoint's orange. Great. Great, great, great. Okay. Now, what I can do is take a look, and what do I see? Up here where my mouse is, oh, the ribbon. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. I still have these tabs here, right? The home tab. Same starting tab as Excel as in Word. Click on insert. Oh man, I can insert a table. So when Stephanie was saying it took me 3 years just to learn how to make a table, right? You can do an auto table. And here I've clicked on the box, which doesn't look like it's showing up on the stream. But once you click on it, you can just drag your mouse and create a table. Right. I created one that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across and 3 rows down. Or you can make your own table. I can change to the next tab. Look, this looked exactly like Excel. It looked exactly like Word. And there's a design tab. And again, I can go ahead and hover over the icon and it will tell me what it does. And now all of a sudden, Apple Sheet. Using these programs becomes a lot easier. Oh, let's say PowerPoint. PowerPoint tips. Right. So now I've made my first. I need to do a presentation. I'm doing a little report. Doesn't really matter what grade you're in or if you're in college, right? This is probably going to do this. Right? And then if you think intuitively, how would I add another page to my PowerPoint? Well, I might insert. I'm looking at the tabs, right? So I could insert a new slide, and there you go. It's the very first thing in the ribbon under the insert tab. And I can change it. I can hover over and change it. Okay. And let's say this is parts of PowerPoint. And here we're going to talk about the ribbon. And here we're going to talk about tabs. And the ribbon, maybe, the ribbon is, what are some similarities? The same uh, for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. What else? It has many of the same icons depending on the tab. You select. I know I said I hate punctuation, right? So here, formatting is important. I've got a bullet point here, right? I capitalize this. This is a sentence or statement. Maybe I should make a period there. Consistency is important, folks. If you're not going to capitalize it, then don't do it for any of them. But if you do it, or if you're going to use punctuation, do it for all of them. Please. Teachers will thank you everywhere. What about tabs? Tabs are we'll change the ribbon, right? We'll change the ribbon. And now I'll put an extra in there. What we can do is you can see we've got our title page, right? We got this extra sheet in here, unfortunately. And then we have, our first piece, our parts of PowerPoint. What's awesome is I could just take this here, hold down the left click, and I could just drag it to the other space there. Boom. I could right click and I could delete this one. Cut. Get rid of it. It's gone. And just like that, I've got the beginning parts of my presentation. And then we could do all kinds of other magic. But I wanted to just kind of go down that road a little bit to show that these things don't have to be as scary as they appear, right? Depending on what your user level knowledge is, if you're trying to show your kids, right? I mean, we're all teachers, right? But there's ways that you can help to teach and explain uh, in ways that hopefully make sense and make it easier, right? Because the teacher will give an assignment, and oftentimes it may be a very brief overview of a of how to use the device or use the program, and then that's it. And you're kind of off on your own, right? And hopefully, maybe you go and you watch some YouTube videos, or you Google, or you have someone that can show you, right? And that's happy. What does Rob say here? The stuff you're showing them is invaluable knowledge. If I would have had that before I started Pathways, it would have helped. But that's what Pathways was good for to teach you. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And what Rob is talking about, Pathways is a program that I taught at the college where it's for non-traditional students that were coming in and needed kind of a jumping off point, right? For whatever the various reasons were. And for Rob, I think he's fine with me saying, he had a really bad construction injury. And so it's like, oh man, I got to come in and I got to learn a new skill. We had very similar backgrounds in that. I mean, almost to the T, right? I was working as a brick mason and fell off the scaffold and destroyed my back and had to go to college and reinvent myself. I had to do it at a younger age than he did, but it was literally for the exact same reason. And that's terrifying, right? Like, yeah, I don't need computers. I don't need programs. I use my hands, right? And then all of a sudden I needed these skills that I did not have. And I'm watching young folks around me clicking through programs, and they're just the teachers clicking through programs, and I'm trying to watch, but it's going so fast. I've lost because they're 10 or 15 clicks into trying to find out where they're at, and they're done, right? You're just like, your brain is smoking. I don't even know how you got there. I'm trying to figure out how you got there. And I didn't even realize the instructor has been talking or lecturing for 5 minutes or telling me what my homework assignment is or what the instructions are for the in class participation. I missed it all. And so now it comes off as that the student is being disruptive because now they're asking someone else, hey, what do I do here? I missed it. Well, it's because they didn't have that skill oftentimes. And so what was awesome about Pathways is they said, you know what? We understand that. And folks are coming from different places, right? Typically non-traditional students, students that have newly become parents or have fallen on hard times, whatever that may be. And they find themselves in that space. And it's like, man, I'm here. I know I need to be here. The stakes are high because I need to be able to take care of myself and my family. I was doing something previous that allowed me to do that, and I can no longer do that. This is critical for me. And I need to get through as fast as possible. And I can't afford to have missteps. And on top of that, I have other things that I need to do. Right. For me, the standard was for whatever credit with you college students, for every credit you take, you need to multiply that by 2. That's how much work or time outside of class that you are typically going to dedicate to your coursework. So when they say full time college, what is a full time job, what they mean is the typical full time load is 15 credits. So 15 times 2 is 30. If you add that to the 15 hours that you spend in class per week, that's 45 hours per week, right? So what are you doing for 30 hours a week? You're reading chapters, you're researching, you're writing papers, you're solving problems, you're working on projects, you're in the tutoring center. I know every class isn't going to require 2 hours for every credit, right? I mean, maybe you're taking a yoga class. Well, I do yoga in class and I'm not really doing anything outside of class. Maybe, hopefully you are. Or, it's a light week. There's not a lot to do this week. But if the workload is heavy or if it's a topic that takes you longer where you can't keyboard and it's paper heavy, and we're not accepting handwritten paperwork. Thank God. Because I can't read my own handwriting. I dang sure can't read yours. It's oh man. Math problems. Woo boy. What is that? So it's critical, right? It's a good spot to say, hey, what do I want to do? How do I do it? What is it going to take for me to complete this? How am I going to pay for it? What skills do I need? What skills do I have? And how can I apply them to my coursework to be successful? That's what Pathways was about. So I really love that. Rob says also say going back to college at the age I did, and the computer skills were scary and intimidating. And a mandatory class. Oh, a mandatory class to teach people these things would be helpful. Yeah, I'm a right now society does not like mandatory. Uh the only challenge with mandatory is, especially with our veteran students, is if it's not in their degree plan. It's like, hey, you take this class and it's going to apply towards you actually getting that certificate or degree, then oftentimes the funding source wouldn't pay for it, even though the person actually needs that course to be successful, right? And so that's when policy can get in the way of what it's ultimately trying to do, right? Give people the education, the skills, or whatever the case may be in this situation, in this scenario, so that they can be successful and earn what it is they're working toward and get out there into the workforce. And it's like, well, you need to just, take advantage of some other things outside of class and teach you these things. Well, oftentimes we actually need an instructor to guide us through. Guided learning is powerful, right? Otherwise, what would be the point in college or university? Just give me correspondence work. Just give me the course on a thumb drive or digitally. Let me log in. Tell me I need to do all this. I'll just read it and do all the stuff and I'll turn it in and that's it. And there are classes and some degree programs that you can do that way. But most people don't learn that way. We're moving more and more toward that. But folks need to know how to learn, right? And yeah, I was reading it, so I figured it out. And a mandatory, a mandatory actually sounds like mandatory. It actually did a pretty good job. I'm like, oh, who's a mandatory? I don't remember her. So sometimes things that are not mandatory may actually be mandatory for you. So consider that. And again, in that high stakes environment, Rob was older, right? He's got a family to take care of, a wife and a son. Me, I was 24. I had my oldest daughter, but you're reinventing yourself. And it's like, man, I got to get out there. I got to get back as soon as possible and start replacing that money. And I need to do a 2-year degree to get an associate degree. Then I need to do another 2 years to get my bachelor degree. But I need these developmental math courses and English courses because I'm not at college level. And so when I was at the college, you can place into the college level math that you needed, right? For your degree. Maybe you place into that, right? But you take a placement test and you could place into the math course below that, Math 99, or below that, Math 94, or below that, Math 90B, or below that, Math 90A. There's 4 quarters in a year if you go summer, and a lot of people do not. So if this is what you need in order to get to the actual course that goes towards your degree, how much time did you add towards your academic goals? And you've probably added more than just this because what else do you need to do, right? You're a busy person. You're already an adult. So normally you would take your college level math and 2 other courses and have your 15 credits, right? Then you're not worried about taking math again. But as you're taking this math course, you're missing out on 5 credits that would go towards your degree. And if you're in a science major or something that requires math, well, now you've got these prerequisites that require you to have this college level math course. So you can't even touch those classes until you complete this. It's a huge turnoff for folks when they come in thinking that it's just going to take 2 years to get a 2-year degree, but it takes 4, 3.5, 5. I started OC in 1997. I got my associate degree, I think, in 1998. 97 in 2002. Started in 97, got my associate in 2002. 5 years to get a 2-year degree. What the hell? Stephanie says you have to take English and math for every degree, so computers should be one of them. Yeah, I think so, right? And they have pathways where you can skip or test out of courses, right? So if you do have that knowledge, right, you take a placement test and you can either place in one of these developmental courses or you can place into the course that you need to take, the college level course. So if you do that for computers too, then what you do is you help to ensure that people are going to have the skills that they need, or at least the computers won't be a barrier. They have an understanding on that. So that was one of the things that I advocated for when I was at Olympic College. I served as an advisor, as an instructor. Um, worked on the digital literacy committee, and that is one of the things that I really pushed for was to add, and we actually piloted a computer uh, testing to see where people were alongside the English and the math, because I taught many first quarter, first year students, and I could see their struggle, right? And so you have Rob sharing his challenges, and at the beginning of this, me sharing Okoye's experience. Well, even me, I had that challenge too, even though computers weren't as heavy as they are now. They were present when I was a student. And we don't know what's going to happen this fall or winter in regards to, our schools going to shut down? Are people going to go back to a digital learning space? And whether they do or not, maybe your child or your family members aren't going to send the child to school because you need to stay safe. And so you have to be proficient in using a Chromebook if you don't have a computer. Navigating, was that Redfin and all of the different programs that are used, that your kids use, or you use if you're in college, or you use if you're working and they're using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, or, and and they're using this week and they're using that this next week. I can't get my camera to come on, right? The executive director of the Bremerton Housing Authority, Jill, two Mondays ago, we we do a podcast every Monday, and she wasn't able to get her camera going, right? And unfortunately, I'm not there, so I can't try to troubleshoot and resolve what the issue is. Just last Tuesday, for whatever reason, Deborah Jackson, she's constantly on the podcast, right? And so we use a program called Restream. And she logged in, and for whatever reason, she couldn't hear me. I could hear her. She could see me. She couldn't hear me. So now we needed to use Zoom. Well, there were some other things that we wanted to share, but this program doesn't allow that, right? And then the more programs that you're using simultaneously, the harder it is on your computer because it's got to work harder. And so things slow down. So if you've ever been in a Zoom meeting and someone wanted to play a video or share their screen and things get bogged down or it's cutting out, you're trying to figure it out, right? These are all the stressful things that happen. And so it doesn't matter whether or not you're a student or you're working or you have kids that are in school, computer literacy is a thing. At some point, you're going to have to apply for another job. You apply for jobs online. You've got to update your resume and your cover letter. How long does it take for you to do that? And you need a different resume and cover letter for every job that you apply for. And while they say, hey, man, there's so many jobs out here, and I mean, it's just a thing of you don't want to work, right? Well, that's offensive. We know that that's not necessarily true. And most times it's not. I have a master's degree. I'm not working at McDonald's. Sorry. So, well, you got to do what you got to do. That's what you went to school for. But while you were looking and amassing all that student debt, which is a nice size car payment, my student loan's 400 a month, something like that. And you're doing your job search and you're tweaking your resume and your cover letter to each job you apply to. And the competition is fierce, right? How long does it take for you to update that? Oh, and then they want you to submit it into their program, right? So you're clicking through. Maybe you can save and continue and come back to it. You got to create a password. Oh man. Everyone uses something different. Everybody wants something else. Oh, I got to do a diversity statement. Oh my God. I type 15 words a minute and they're looking for a page and a half. I'm on unemployment and I have 3 job searches per week. And they want me to report on it too. So I got to keep a log. How long does that take me to do? On top of the fact that I'm doing these job searches and actually using surfing the internet for information is there's pedagogy in that too, right? There's, how do you do that effectively and not go down a rabbit hole? So I was looking this up and what happened to me the other day? What am I looking for? I was looking for something on Amazon for the podcast. And I'm trying to I was actually also trying to research a new device that I got. So I'm Googling different articles, I'm Googling different YouTube videos, and I came across something else that sounded really interesting, related, but that's not what I was looking at right now. Well, next thing I know, I've watched that for 15 minutes. What the hell was I doing? I forgot. What was I doing? That was 2 videos ago, right? Or I read this, maybe I put in my favorites to come back. The joke is uh folks will watch me on the podcast, Rob and Stephanie. They chastise me for all of my tabs that I have open. Right now, I only have 3 open on this particular tab, but I am the tab king. Oftentimes, I have 5 windows open, and they all have about 10 or 15 tabs open, and that's because I see information. I'm trying to stay focused on what I'm trying to do, but if I see something good, I'm going to start to go down the rabbit hole, or I'll keep that tab open because I'm gonna come back to it and read it later. Oh, I gotta respond to this email. That popped up on the screen. Digital literacy, computer literacy, there's a lot that goes to it. It's not just understanding how to use the software, right? Which are the programs. It's not just how to use the hardware, which is the actual computer or the mouse or the camera or the keyboard. How do you troubleshoot it? How do you navigate it effectively? How do you manage your time so you don't look up and 2.5 hours have gone past? You know what? I'm gonna take a little break. I'm gonna look at Facebook. Oh, it's an hour later. This was my time that I needed to get this done. I still got to type that paper. Killing me. My God. Man, my thoughts aren't there. For whatever reason, you ever have those times when you're typing and sometimes, you know, you're just in the zone. You're in the zone. And you start making these errors. See some folks every time they make an error, they come down here. I wish I could go to oh man, I made a mistake. You saw that I made a mistake just a second ago, right? Now watch people go back and fix their mistake immediately and they break their thought, right? So above, even though I have these errors, I think it's better to get it out while your mind is flowing. Let the mistakes just come out. Don't worry about fixing it. You can go back and fix it later. You got to proofread it anyway. But every time you break your thought, oops, every time you break your thought, then it's harder for you to come back. And then sometimes you forget your thought. So it makes it a lot more difficult. See, I can go back now. I can fix my mistake because my thought is on paper, right? I think that's one of the things that will help to save you some time. Stephanie says, you do have to take English and math for every degree, so computers should be one of them. Then she says, and you have to take computers to do it all. Oh, wait, I forgot. We can all afford that. Right. Right. And then this technology seems to fail after 18 months and you got to buy a new one too. So many tabs. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to. I've just embraced that I'm just going to be that person that has all the tabs open. So it is what it is. I'm just going to give up the ghost. Oh, hey. How are you doing today, Miss Okoye? Are you in class right now? What's going on with you? I hear some stuff going on in the background. So this is exactly what's happening. If you can kind of hear her computer, she's in class, right? So this is what's going on. I'm hoping you'll get a chance to come on and talk a little bit.
Race equity, GARE. Should city, county, etc. join GARE?
So
How
just I'm gonna put you on mute,
establish
but as soon as you're
and
ready to talk,
empower
just give me the
race
thumbs up.
equity?
Okay. All right. So oh, I think she muted her class. So did you want to talk really quick since you muted your class, Okoye, or are you still listening? Yeah, she's listening. Okay. All right. So she's listening. So I'm so glad that she was able to come on, right? She's in class. She's in class. Uh, but this is really important to both of us. And we really want to provide a space for folks to, one, recognize where some of the challenges may be coming from. It's not always the subject. And so how do you remove those barriers for yourself and or for your children, right? And oftentimes you've got it double, right? Because your kids, and if you have multiple kids in different grades, they're all working on something different, which is crazy. And then you might be working from home and you got your own things to do. So now you're stressed out too. Good Lord. Now you're the computer tech. Like you work at Microsoft. How stressful is that for a parent? That's incredibly difficult and stressful. And so when the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we're shutting down. Here's your Chromebook for your kid. Figure it out. And again, we already know the literacy numbers in our community is woeful. And now they're behind the eight ball. All right, here she is. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Good evening, Marwan. Good evening, the Conduit. Good evening, community. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing fine. I mean, this subject, Marwan and I, we have been challenged with this on all sides, our students, our parents, our teachers. You know, when we were thrown into a pandemic and thrown into the virtual learning spaces, it really not only showed that we needed to begin to cultivate and develop these skills for the parents as well as the students and those that needed to learn how to navigate. We have such a tremendous gap with this, and we're dealing with learning abilities and tools. One of the things that I'm struggling with, I'm going back to Evergreen State College. I'm going to school. When I went to school, we didn't have to do everything with technology or computers. And yes, I have a knowledge base and a clear understanding, but when you talk about technology and technology skills and being able to navigate technology and set up computers and be able to understand the bandwidth of what the ins and outs of technology is an added on stress and an added on challenge that really cripples our students, as well as those that are going on into those learning spaces. And so we've got to look at that, because now they're talking about our students being able to go back to school, and maybe they have to go back into that virtual learning environment. And we should have learned over the last year in 2020 the challenges and what we were faced with, just understanding technology. When you're talking about net neutrality, oh,
Mm,
let's talk about that.
mm,
We haven't even begin to address some of the disparities. Not only do they not have the technology, but they don't even have the access. So what are we talking about here? This is serious as we begin to move forward in dealing with this next round of the variants and COVID and the flu and winter season coming upon us, and not understanding how we're really going to move forward with all of our students in the our educational system has shifted tremendously. Oh, we've got some challenges that we've got to get on top of ASAP and right away. And our students, especially students of color and students that have already been in a category where they've been despaired because of technology, my gosh, w- what are we doing to ourselves here? So let's talk about that. I've only got a few minutes. Like I said, yes, I'm a student at Evergreen. We're talking about these challenges, how we're going to meet these challenges and immerse and serve our communities, even in the midst of all of these crises. What will we do as we move forward as a society to address these disparities? Because they are real. They are more than real. They have caused us to lose students. Students are dropping out of school left and right,
mhm.
and technology has a big part that they play in this. And so, Marwan, I don't know what the conversation was prior to coming on, but when you're talking about navigating this virtual environment and having the tools and the skills and the equipment and the resources, man, man, we haven't even begun. So let's just slow our roll for a minute and begin to lay a solid foundation how we're going to move forward if we have to live in this virtual space, because it's not equitable. It's never been equitable. Net neutrality, not even a part of the conversation. It should be at the forefront.
Mhm. Yeah, and what's powerful is your testimony as a professional, right? Uh,
Yes,
and I was talking about you earlier. You're in a lot of spaces. You're on Zooms. You're a college student, right? And you're having struggles, right?
yes,
And you use these, you use this software, you use this hardware, and if you're having these struggles, what about our children, right? What about our parents that are
yes,
now having to teach their children, and they're also having to use it themselves, right?
yes.
You apply for jobs online now, so you have to know how to use this.
Even to have access to the COVID, when we first was faced with the COVID crises, when they said, "Oh, you got to go online and sign up and everything," we were that's where we lost it right there.
Mhm. Right.
That widened the gap, the inequities in access right there. No, none of the organizations, none of the agencies were open, so they couldn't even go in. None of the library. I mean, come on. We man, let's look at that.
That's
Because we
powerful.
were faced with it. We had to get out on the street and beat the street to say, come on down here to this hospital and get this COVID shot. And they were wondering why, the communities of color wasn't showing up. And I said, how are you getting this information to them? Because
Hmm.
now they're not in school. They're, their resources, the libraries everywhere, not even available. They can't get into to get access to computers or any of these things. Wow. Really? And you're wondering why we have a gap?
Yeah, yeah. And what you touched on was really important too, because it wasn't just COVID information, but if you needed rental assistance, did you need electricity assistance?
That's
Did you
exactly
need
right.
internet assistance, right? They were paying for your internet for a while. Well, how do I even apply for that? How do I fill out the paperwork? How do I
Yeah,
attach my bill? Right? Because they wanted documentation. Well, how do I do that? I'm just used to going down and driving to the office and dropping that off, or getting on the bus, or having someone take.
that's right.
So now I have to attach it and then send it. Well, can I just take a picture and email it to you? Well,
how
no.
do how do I upload what let me tell you what some of my parents said. What is that? Upload. What are they talking about? They don't even know the language. They don't know the software or how to begin to navigate. And I'm like, OMG. If I'm saying OMG and my parents are calling me saying OMG and I'm saying OMG because I can't even help you either because I'm struggling in this virtual realm as well.
Mhm.
I'm saying, Lordy, Lordy, have mercy. What in the world? What are we going to do?
Right, right. And this isn't it, right? This isn't over. We already see the Delta variant. We're starting to, get a hold of it right now, but we're not into flu season yet, right? We don't know what's going to happen this fall. We don't know what's going to happen this winter, but we know that something new is going to come and hit us. This isn't going to be the last pandemic that we face, right? And our economy is, starting to downturn. What are folks going to do when they find themselves in this situation? How are they going to access it? And there's only so many funds. So then it also becomes a race, right? Well, sorry, there's no more slots open.
We're faced with some tumultuous times ahead of us if we are not looking at these disparities and these gaps and these challenges to access and being able to get resources now. This pandemic should have taught us a little something that we've got to do things different.
Absolutely. Well, before you go, would you mind sharing with folks, because you're talking about your challenges? What types of things that you're doing to overcome these barriers for yourself?
Well, I'm reaching out. You know what? Closed mouth don't get fed. I'm saying to those ones, I'm being very vulnerable and I'm saying, look, I I need help and to be able to ask for help. Our parents, they have to be able to feel that they can ask for help and know that they're going to be heard and know that some of their challenges and some of their frustrations and some of the things that they're asking for, that it's not going to fall on deaf ears. And I'm reaching out and I can tell you I've reached out too, and they said, oh, that's nice, and go on about their business. But who is saying these services are here? How can I help you? How can we help you to navigate? How can you get some of this information to our students and to our parents so we can begin to close this gap? We've got to come up with solutions, not just, oh, well, and here's another place where you can apply and get on a waiting list or have challenges even to get access to the application process. Everything doesn't have to be you need to apply, you need to do this, you need to do that. There should be somewhere that we got hands on we can have access to. We can just be Johnny on the spot and get some of these access, because that's the waiting game has harmed us as well.
And I think where we missed the mark a lot is, we're trying to do, all these agencies are trying to help, right? And they're dealing with crisis, and even when it's just day-to-day things, right? You're trying to provide this resource to folks, and you provide it to them in this space. But we don't really, I don't where we miss is we don't understand how the end user is accessing it. Where the person that doesn't have that knowledge base that's coming in and looking at it like, oh my goodness, this is a foreign language to me. What do I do? And I may not have someone that can show me how to navigate this, and they're like, "Oh, well, just call in if you need help, or we'll walk you through it." Or, I'll call customer service, like, "Oh, just go onto the website, go to www. Blah 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 blah," and then they're ready to hang up on you, and it's like, I didn't even write that down. But once I get there, what am I even looking at? So a lot of times I'll say, hold on, ma'am," and I'll go. I'm gonna keep you on the phone, and I'm gonna go to the website. All right, where am I supposed to navigate? And you've got to slow them down. So you do need to advocate for yourself, as Akuye was talking about. That's a big one. Don't let them rush you. Do try to write down what you can. Maybe ask them if you can record, so you can listen back to it, right? Because learning is repetition, and you're needing to hear it and practice it. So if you've only heard it once and you got that instruction that one time and it was rapid fire, it's gone, and it's tough. And the older we get, it's harder to hold information. I could do a lot of calculations in my head, and I can't do that. You tell me a 10-digit phone number, and it's like, I don't remember what you just told me. So, we've got to use different resources. How's your class going?
Child, you don't even want to know.
Uh-oh.
I said, oh, you know what I said? You know what my sister told me? She said, "Child, who told you to go back to school when you're 60? You should get what." I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, you should have did that when you was 18 years old." I said, "It's never too old. You're never too old to learn, sister. So let's make sure that if you have a desire back to school at any age, do it. Do it."
Yes, yes. And it may not be a want. It may be out of necessity. That and
Yes,
that
you're
that is
right.
That's huge. When I was teaching at, computer classes at WorkSource, we were having folks that were coming in where their job was outsourced or their position was being, eliminated, and they were effective. We got a little feedback there. They were effective because they used a particular program, like, let's say, at a hospital, right? They use this database, and so they're entering in the vitals, and that's what they did. They did that same thing for 15 years, right? But then now all of a sudden they need to use Microsoft Word, and they have to use other programs and databases. Well, they've never seen any of these things before. And there were folks that were in tears. How am I supposed to learn this? And they've used the computer every day while they were at work. That painful, painful. And to watch, grown folks go through that angst and that pain, um, it's just something else. So Koye is going back to class there. So I'm glad she was able to drop in and share her experience, right? Um, Again, for those of us that have that background and that skill set and we're used to it, it's one thing. But when we don't have it, you're talking. Okoye is 60, and for those of you that know her, know that she is, a tremendously wise woman. Now, I'm not even going to say smart, right? Wise is beyond smart, but this is a skill that is tremendously needed and really holds people back and causes them to struggle, right? To the end that friends and family are saying, why are you doing that? You should have done that way back when. But we know the landscape of work is changing. Jobs are being outsourced. Technology is replacing a lot of work that we used to do. We're not needed, right? It's automated. There's robots. So what do we do? What are you going to do? How are you going to get those skills? And you're competing against people that are younger, right? So if there's a million jobs and you've got 800,000 applicants, great. But now, if all of a sudden that doubles because, well, other jobs have gone away. So these folks are coming in. Now you've got 800,000 jobs. and you've got 2 million applicants. And so when you start seeing people in Mercedes and BMWs and they're delivering your food through Uber Eats, well, that's some of the reason why, right? These were folks that were white collar workers that were typically using their degrees, probably making somewhere north of $50,000 up to six figures. And the job went away for whatever the reason: COVID, technology. Folks found out, organizations found out, hey, you know what? We had to go remote, and now we're remote. We're actually getting more done. We actually don't need as many people. So, what do you do? And this one over here has the same knowledge as you, but computers are easy. They have that skill set. They can keyboard, they can outproduce. It's about production, right? In the equation earlier, 50 words per minute, 15 words per minute. I type 3 times faster than you do. So, all things being even or equal, who do I want to hire? I can like you, but hey, this is capitalism. We're here to, make a dollar. I got to go with the person that can do 50 words a minute. So, as Okoye was saying, it is critical that we address these issues. So, what can we do? What can we do? Because, man, that seems so dire. This emergency preparedness and equity series can seem so bleak. And I don't want it to uh, just be a bleak conversation, but it is important to accurately define what the issues are, what the challenges are. Because if you don't do that, you're not able to solve the problem. And sometimes you may be solving a problem, but you're not solving the problem or the problems, because they're can be multifaceted. Access is important. Knowledge is important. Access to knowledge is important. And that access may be being taught. Everyone can't watch a YouTube video. Everyone can't read an internet article. Everyone can't listen to a podcast and they're good. Some people need an instructor to be guided through it. Some people need a space so that they can tangibly work with what it is that they're learning. There's a reason why we have teachers. Check for understanding. Do we do that when we're trying to teach ourselves something? Do we chunk it down into small bites? Learn one little section, go back and say, do I really understand this before moving forward? And then how do I check and assess myself to see if I actually do understand it before I move on? We don't typically do that. Oftentimes we get something new and we tear into it and we start turning it on. We don't have time to read the manual, right? I don't even know where my manuals are. Like, I can figure this out. And you find out it's like, oh man, my computer did this. This device did that. I had no idea. Well, you wouldn't because you didn't read the manual, right? But even then, it's very technical. So they have a job position called technical writer, and one of their duties is to take the super technical jargon and write it in a way that the end user can actually understand and use. Right? It's a powerful position to have. One of the things that you can do is, as you're learning, Try to teach it to someone else. Explain it to someone else. That helps for you to uh, reinforce your learning. I'm gonna type that in the chat. Teach it to someone. Check for understanding. Okay. Chunk. Put that in quotations. Chunking means different things in learning. Chunk or learning into small bites. Always give yourself grace. Build in breaks. When you're learning, one of the things that folks struggle with is that you're in a hurry, right? You already have to get this done. And so you want to jump in and get going on it. And you're like, I don't have time to take a break. Because now you're telling me to read the manual. Now you're telling me to check for understanding. Now you're telling me to explain it to someone else. I'm already behind. I don't have time to do all this. No, you actually need to prioritize it. But you need to build in breaks. Your brain can only absorb so much information. And there's a sweet spot, right? As you begin to learn, right? You think about it. You pull out your book, my manual on the moving camera, which I'm actually going to read because I couldn't figure it out on my own. Right? We pull it out. We kind of look at the book. All right, this is the chapter. All right, I got that. What do I need to get myself together? Are there any tools that I need to get? So I'm doing my setup. I got my pen. I got my pencil. I got what I need. I've got my area to work. That's taking some time. Now I've got to read the thing. Am I going to read it all just to kind of expose myself to the whole thing? Am I going to read it step by step and just take it paragraph by paragraph? Am I going to check with someone else or go back and say, okay, all right, this says, let's see, packing list. All right, all the things in the pack. And this is actually one of the reasons why I had to do that. I pulled it out because I was so excited to work on it. I got called away from it. I didn't get to it again for a couple days. Then I'm looking at it and I'm like, do I have all the pieces to this thing? Because I hadn't really had time to analyze it. So I don't even know what was in the box, right? Okay, so what am I supposed to do? Oh, I needed to charge these things. So it's really not much of anything I can do right now until this thing charges, and that's going to take 3 hours. Okay, so I need to prioritize my time, plan my time. Okay, but I need to build in breaks, and so especially if you find yourself getting frustrated, you need to reset. You need to stretch. That's it. That's critically important. So, you're in a classroom environment, and depending on the instructor and where you're at, you might be behind. There might be a bunch of information, so they have to just kind of blow through a whole bunch of things. They can't really give you breaks, or when they give you breaks, people don't come back to the classroom on time. Of course, it takes a while to start back up. When you're on a Zoom, everyone doesn't come back to the Zoom on time because they're doing other things, and they come in and then they're blowing the chat up because they don't know what the hell's going on because they were gone. It's so frustrating. So consider all those things, but prioritize your time. So build in your breaks, prioritize your time, right? Plan, set goals. What do you want to learn today? What are you working on today? Are you working on Microsoft Word? Are you working on what to do when your computer goes down? From time to time, it's really strange. Like I'll lose internet. working on the computer. It goes to sleep. I come back, the internet's down. Like, what's going on? You know? Uh, I know one of the reasons is I use a lot of data. I use a lot of data. You have no idea. But I got to figure out what it is, right? And so I've got to take some time to say, okay, I need to research the issues that I have. One, I take a note of whatever the problem is that I have. If I get an error code, I take a picture of it. I usually take a picture instead of writing it down because I can look at the picture, I can zoom in on it and look at it. Also, if I call a tech person and I, try to deal with it in the chat, I can, send it as an attachment or an email. Or if I'm talking to a friend, I can send them the picture and say, this is what this looks like. And that's helpful. But set goals, right? Well, they say Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to learn it all in a day. So work on one thing. When we were talking about, Microsoft Word or Excel, let's say, as an example, let's see if I can pull that back up really quick. I think I closed it down. There we go. One of the things that you can do is say, today I'm not going to try to teach myself all of Microsoft PowerPoint. That's too daunting. Today, I'm just going to get myself familiar with the ribbon and some of the tabs, right? And I'm going to work on the vocabulary and to have a common language. If you've ever had to call customer service and you're trying to explain to them what the issue is, or you're trying to explain it to your instructor, that common language is important. So when I taught these basic computer classes, vocabulary was critical, right? People are saying, well, the space above like the body of the document where I type at, right? That's stressful, right? So when you teach people, hey, well, this is the ribbon, which they never knew, right? I know what this is. I mean, I see it, I work in it. That's where it is. But once you have that, and you could tell somebody, okay, well, let's say I'm having a hard time seeing my document. How can I increase the size of my document? And they're looking at PowerPoint. You can say, you know what? All right. We can think critically about that. What tab might help me with that? Home, insert, draw, design, transition, animation, slideshow, review, view, shape format. Well, this is about how it looks. So it might be my view, right? How it looks, view. So I can navigate to the view tab, common language, and I can look in the ribbon and I can hover over the different icons. Look, ma, no hands. And I can just hover across and see what these different things are. And, I came to this magnifying glass that says zoom. And if I click on it, I can zoom to these percentages, or I can type the percentage in here. Awesome. And so while Okoye is on the phone with me, or if we're on a Zoom and she can't share her screen, then I can navigate her through this, right? Go to the Home tab. Okay. These are groups in the ribbon. If you want to bold, you can go to the group here and click on bold. Or what is this? Slanted eye. Oh, italics. Got it. What is this U? I don't need to memorize this stuff. I can just hover over it. Underline. Oh, wow. So I bolded the word Y. I italicized it, put it in a slant, and I underlined it. Nice. And you know what else is awesome? I know that I did it because as I'm looking in the ribbon, they're grayed out, right? So if I take the underline away, it's no longer grayed out. So now I can see what I've done to the word why by looking at the ribbon. The B is grayed out, so I bolded it. The I is grayed out, so I italicized it. Oh, look at this. This is grayed out. That's because I'm using bullets. And it's aligned to the left. Wow, that told me a whole lot. Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Okay. So that's all I'm going to work on today. I'm not trying to get into what, the transitions do and how I can apply that. So if I go to one screen to the next and I can preview what that's going to look like, right? I can click on that. Oh, cool. It's pretty fun. Ooh, that's hot. That's all right. Right? Ooh, look at all these different things I can do to go from one screen to the next. That's hot. Man, I look like I can make some awesome presentations. And so it's a really great way to learn. I'm going to take 15 minutes and I'm going to just go over what's in the home tab. Here, I've got pictures. I can go to the photo browser. I can get pictures from files. So those are pictures that are on my computer, or I can get pictures from online, from the internet. And I might try inserting pictures just to practice. So these are pictures of apples. Right? And just go ahead and practice inserting it. Oops. Teacher. So, apple. All right. And I can click on it and drag it around. And you can see if I grab it here from this corner and I get the arrows at a diagonal, I can increase the size, keeping the ratio the same, the height and the width, right? If I grab it from, let's say, the bottom or the top here, right, I get up and down arrows. So now it looks like a fun house. I can make it really fat or make it really skinny and long. I could do the same here with the horizontal, left and right. I can make it really wide or make it really skinny. And there's this little turny thing up here, and I can turn the apple at an angle. I can turn it upside down, right? Do all kinds of little cool things. Right? So those are little things that you can do. That's a great way to learn. That's the chunking, right? So I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to set a goal. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to practice. I'm going to chunk it into something small. I'm going to check for understanding. I'm going to give myself some grace. I'm going to build in some breaks. I'm going to make sure I understand it. And if I can teach someone else, like Layla or Akuye or you on the chat, I get practice. I get to explain it, and I'm doing it, right? And then people ask me questions, which makes me learn more. Well, why did you do it that way? And you're like, well, I did it this way because yada, 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 yada. So pretty cool. What was our number one? It was way back there somewhere. Typing games. Right? Keyboarding is important. We're going to talk about this again. And I wanted to ask Okoye about that because she obviously has to write papers. And definitely at the collegiate level, the papers get pretty large. And we are evil instructors. So you're taking my international business course, and you're taking an English class, and you're taking a geography course, and we all have papers, and they're all like 5 to 10 pages, and they're all due at midterms, and they're all due at finals. It's like, man, I got a life. I got kids. I'm working. How am I supposed to write all these papers? This instructor assigned a 10-page paper. This instructor assigned a 10-page paper, and I peck at 15 words a minute. What do you want me to do? Get her done. How the hell am I supposed to get her done? Well, that's the rub, right? You got to figure it out. And for those that can, are the ones that see success and they achieve their academic goals or their employment goals or get the resources that they're trying to access, and they get them in a timely manner. They don't run out of funding by the time you figure it out or get help. You're not frustrated. You know, uh, one of the things that someone tells me is good vibes, right? I just thought that was strange. Like, good, 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 good vibrations. That's what makes me think of Sunkissed. We giving out good vibrations. But it's like good vibes, good vibes. And I always thought that was weird. But it's like, no, I get it, right? You want this sense of calm, this sense of feeling good, get a good feel, good sense. And if you have that, then you give yourself an opportunity to learn, to figure it out. If you have that good vibe, if something's difficult or challenging, right? You're going to stay in a space where you're more calm and focused to overcome the challenges of learning. And maybe it's even a fun thing. Man, I like learning new stuff. And I like when it's a challenge. I don't like it when it's just so hard, like I'm never going to get it. But, you know, as that learning starts to happen, it's like, man, all right, I got it. I inserted that picture. I did do this. Man, this is pretty cool. This isn't as bad as I thought. And then you start to apply it to what you need it for. And it's like, man, this is so much better. Thank you. I used to teach computer classes for the Bremerton Housing Authority up at, I can never remember what the name of that place is, Old West Park. And as I was teaching these courses here, one of the things I said is, what can you do for you, right? What would be a reason that you might want to use some of these programs? And I had a lot of older students. So, some wanted to make like a family newsletter because, they're the family historians, but they're also the ones that, know what everyone has going on and they want to share it. So Aunt Terry and Uncle Eric, this is what they have going on. And little Johnny just, graduated from fourth grade. And Sarah, she just got her, degree in whatever, right? This is what everyone has going on. We're going to get together for the family reunion here and da 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 da. And it was just so powerful for them to use those tools and then get it out to everyone. Some people were able to make calendars or workout goals or start to capture their recipes and then really, take pictures of their dishes once it's prepared, and they put their recipe in a Word document and get the picture from on their computer, and then like the apple here, put it next to the recipe and create their own recipe book. And it feels so accomplished, right? And they give it to the rest of the family members that are always asking for that recipe on the mac and cheese. And they always want you to make it. And everyone's always asking you to make it. Like, here you go. There's the recipe. If you want to divulge the recipe. But it's transferable. So number 10, I'm going to say is try to find a way to make it fun. Try to make a way it fun. So important. So important. All right. And again, I don't remember what my number one is because I was talking about something else. So, number one can be start now. Start now. There's no time to wait. If you find yourself right now in a space where it's like, all right, everything seems to be going okay. Kids have been in school for a few weeks now. They're doing all right. They have kind of gone through the Chromebook thing, so feeling all right. This is the time when you want to start learning because you don't know when you're going to need it again. Start now. Because when it hits again, that's when that stress all of a sudden kicks in. All of a sudden, the computers start working right. You haven't seen their programs. They're in another grade now, so the program is different. They're using something else, and you haven't seen it before. You're looking at this like, what? What is this? You got to apply for rental assistance. You got to apply for electricity assistance. You got to apply for internet assistance. You're trying to renew your driver's license online. You're trying to apply for a job. Start now. Teach it to someone else. It really helps when you can explain it to someone else. And if it's someone that's in your immediate circle, like your kids, then you're giving them knowledge and skills. Your significant other, right? So you're not alone. Check for understanding. Do you get it? Do you understand it? Don't try to read the whole thing and then go back and see if you understand the whole thing. It's too much. So you need to chunk your learning into small bits. They say, how do you eat elephant? Well, I don't eat elephant. But if I did, I'd eat it one bite at a time. I know. Why did they even come up with that? Like, how do you eat elephant? Give yourself grace. That's important. Doesn't matter. Okoye is 60. You know, she doesn't have the skill set. She's not deterred. She's in class. And you know what? She's 60 years old. And it is 10 p.m. on the East Coast. And she's in class. And some of us are like, man, I'm trying to turn up. It's Friday. Okay. Why is she so hungry? She didn't have to. Driven, motivated. Is it intrinsic motivation? Is it extrinsic motivation? I say for her, it's both, right? Her own edification, her own professional and personal development, but then she also wants to bring it out and help others. So she's motivated by both. What's your motivation? Give yourself grace. Building breaks. You got to take breaks. Breathe, people. Stand. Let the blood circulate through your body. I know it's horrible. I'm doing a podcast. I'm on my ball today, but I do need to stand up. I do need to hydrate. I do need to stretch. My watch, not wearing that one right now, but it will tell me like every 60 minutes or so, you need to stand up. You need to breathe. And it will tell me, good job. You know, if I do it like before time. Number 7, prioritize your time. You know, sometimes we just sit down, it's like, all right, let's go. I'm going to just start getting into this. Okay. Do you have time to actually get into it to the degree that you need to? And if you didn't chunk it, you know, where it's like, hey, man, I'm going to do this during this time frame. This is what I'm going to prioritize right now. I'm only going to look at the home tab and investigate the ribbon on the home tab. That's all I'm going to do right now. That's the only thing that I'm going to focus on. That's my priority. Which requires you to make a plan, right? Which probably should have been number 7. Make a plan. But I guess you make your plan based on the priority, right? Right now, I've got a paper due. So I've got to use Microsoft Word. I got to figure this thing out. I got to use PowerPoint. Set your goals. How long do you want to have this understanding? Be proficient. The whole quarter? Half a quarter? A week? A month? What's your goal? What level of proficiency do you want to get to? Do you need to get to? And then lastly, try to make a way to make it fun. It works for Layla. It can work for you too. And oftentimes it works for your kids, right? They try to find different ways to stimulate kids. Maybe where they don't even think they're learning. Try to do it when we're cooking. We use the measuring cup and, there's math in there. It's pretty cool. Like I said, there's math in the video games. Hey, we're going to use all these quarters. Well, we're going to have to answer some math problems. Okay. I'm motivated. All right. All right. So like I said, we're going to continue this conversation because it is important. We want you to be prepared before it comes again. We want your kids and yourself to not be stressed out and struggling. And if we go into a lockdown again for this reason or another, that you have the tools, the resources, and you know where to go to get the help that you need. Goodwill is a great one. So shout out to Shaylin Houston as one of the instructors of Goodwill. Their classes are fantastic. She's a great teacher. It's a good place for you to get computer skills. I'll have to put that up as a resource. But for now, I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. I hope that you have a great Friday night and a great weekend. Until next time.